In the past year, I felt like Oda has introduced or reintroduced the most broken devil fruits in the story, which has in turn left me broken. I can't seem to get things right. At first, with Kaido, I said, this is incredible. His durability, his destruction, his power. Then I came to realization, wait a second, that's just Kaido. With any fruit, he dominates. Plus, there's now the question to whether or not he actually ate the fruit because he wanted to or because he had to, because Big Mom gave it to him. Who knows if he was on the brink of death. We do know for a fact he's a hockey fanboy and gasses Roger more than anyone, so is he even awakened? Where does he poop? I mean, questions for another day, I suppose, but they matter to me. The intent today, though, is to expose this broken devil fruit, or the most broken devil fruit, the newly revealed broken devil fruit in Bonnie. But there's a list that we got to get through. And at first, like I said, there's Kaido's, and then we got Law's awakening, which is OP, and of course that was the most broken, right? Well, then we got the Nika fruit, which no question breaks the story, right? I mean, he can create goggles for Christ's sakes, and he can mimic other fruits. Wait, Bonnie can't create goggles as far as we know, but mimicking other fruits she can do. This video is sponsored by WebNovel. WebNovel is a global online reading platform available on iOS and Android, containing all kinds of novels and comics. While there are many genres to choose from, one that I find interesting is the system genre, where the characters possess a system or virtual assistance tool, granting them various special abilities, tasks, or skills which play a significant role in the storyline. From that genre, I recommend you guys check out Reincarnated with the Strongest System. You know we love Isekai over here, so this story definitely caught my eye. After William sacrifices himself in order to help his little brothers and sisters at the orphanage, he is sent to the Temple of 1,000 Gods, a place where those who are looked upon favorably by the gods are sent. While he is there, he must choose a patron god before being whisked away in another world. Catching the eye of a few gods, and despite not choosing them, he is granted a divinity, something to aid him in his journey in his new life. He decides to choose the god of trade, Gavin, who provides him with perks to upgrade to the strongest level, which will give him a boost in experience when increasing the level of his job class, while also an extra skill point when the job class levels up, and finally, when unlocking 10 jobs, he'd be able to merge them all together. All this can be regulated through the system, a CPU core that was granted to him by Gavin. Now, after choosing a silver portal that would lead him to a new world, he's sent hurling to a red portal after getting hit by none other than Truck-kun. A red portal. I bet you're wondering what happens next, right? You would just have to read it on the WebNovel app by clicking the link below. And once you're in, I know Reincarnated with the Strongest System is a lot to type out, but all you gotta do is type system. Install the WebNovel app today and type system to read Reincarnated with the Strongest System. Go do it right now. Now, when we say broken, what do we really mean? OP, overpowered for the old folks out there. Ridiculous, too powerful, or maybe it's just breaking the established rules. But what are the rules? For Bonnie's fruit, it's somewhat doing that, breaking the rules, but not really. There are several reasons why this could stun some people, including myself, because the age fruit and how we saw it was used before. She's able to manipulate the aging process of anything. The Toshi no Mi, the age fruit. This in itself tells me that it ages things, right? But here's the thing, age could mean how old you are, but also it could mean transcending eras or time, which this devil fruit does some of. But what is the actual power? I do think imitation is a form of flattery, and Oda takes this to heart by having it a staple of quite a few devil fruit users. Law was able to imitate Corazon, Luffy was able to imitate Ace, now Bonnie's able to imitate not only her dad, but a form of herself that possibly exists. Okay, let's break down what Bonnie's fruit can actually do before we determine if it actually is the most broken. Upon introduction of Bonnie and Sabaody, she's able to age a group of Marines down to toddlers who were functioning normally, right? So this tells me that even after aging, you retain all your regular functions. It's just your physical appearance that are affected for the most part. But she can destroy you mentally because she has an attack called NDE, near-death experience, and it seems like a rapid-fire image projection as to how it could possibly feel when you die. This is psychologically damaging because imagine seeing how you die in the midst of battle. So it's somewhat like showing you a future in which she kills you. And bro, that is insane. Her two other aging attacks are Oral Shock and Toshisuke, which Oral Shock, that's applied to a metal object, but she used this attack to destroy the lock in which Kuma's memories were held. For Toshisuke, this is her imbuing her weapon with the powers of her devil fruit. So she imbued her weapon with her power, and then she poked Vegapunk with this weapon, and it de-aged him. I think that's sick, applying a devil fruit power to a weapon. Like for instance, if Vanderdecken could apply that to bullets, right? He'd fire off a bullet from his gun, that hits you, and now you're marked. And now he can hit you with his actual devil fruit power. I mean, I think that's kind of crazy. The attack that's breaking everyone's mind, though, is distorted future, right? That distorted my brain, let me tell you that. Because Bonnie seemingly ages herself to not only change physically, but in a recent chapter, she specifically requested a future, right? Like she went to the store, was like, yo, gimme Nika. It's almost like speaking it into existence. Or as if she was talking to Zordon and asking for a Zord. It's actually pretty wild. Distorted future at first glance seems to make no sense, but let's try to make sense of it. Here's the first thing. There seems to be multiple versions of distorted future, which makes sense, as the future and the distortion will vary based on the situation seemingly and what she calls for. But let's start with the encounter with Vegapunk, in which distorted future, it ages her up and changed her appearance. To that's similar to a buccaneer, and her physical attack increased, which a wall was destroyed with just a regular attack. But there wasn't a request of any additional powers. So this is just a strength thing or physical ability thing. With Bonnie's attack versus Alpha, she called the distorted future while requesting Nika-Ish powers to use somewhat of a gear 3rd or gear 5th attack. People are saying gear 5th because her body size changed, like Luffy using Muchi Muchi in gear 5. But distorted future could be akin to gear 4th for Bonnie with different variations, like Luffy gear 4 Snake Man, gear 4 Tank Man, you know, things of that nature, but different. Could be the same way Law uses Room as like the base of all of his attacks, but that's like a limitation for his fruit outside of Awakening. Stay with me. But it could be a way Bonnie prepares for the next attack or next form, like that's the base of the attack, distorted future, then she can call another things. This in itself is already crazy, as we saw Bonnie turn someone young, turn someone old, destroy objects, and call forth on specific powers. The only thing we haven't seen yet is the restoration of an object, which she can probably do since she can de-age someone as well. But can she pull forth a future in which, let's say, she got injured? Can she call forth a future in which she's not injured? Nothing seems crazy to me at this point. But it's time to look at the age fruit at face value. And being able to age humans and objects, that's a crazy power altogether. Age is just time. So she is freely manipulating time. I want to verify all the possible fruits we've seen that manipulates time in some way, right? We have Foxy, obviously Bonnie, Toki, and Shinobu. The most straightforward two are Toki and Foxy, as they directly affect time, like directly. They all do. But for these two specifically, Toki on a much greater scale, as she can travel through time herself to a different time period. Foxy can slow anything down using photon particles. Shinobu and Bonnie are both manipulating time, with Shinobu using a mature fruit, and one could say Shinobu's use of the fruit is limited and only the surface has been scratched, but her effects are permanent. They cannot be erased through her abilities, right? But all of the time abilities we talk about somewhat make sense in how they can manipulate time. Funnily enough, they're all paramecia fruits. But Bonnie's breaks the mold and forces us to look at devil fruits, in my opinion, the way they probably should have been always looked at. Bonnie's ability to distort the future and call upon abilities brought up the simple question: how? How is she not only manipulating her body, but presenting this timeline with abilities she should not be able to access? Now, with research and being an internet quantum theorist myself, I'm here to present you with two explanations as to what's going on. One is much more detailed and trying to use actual quantum theory, and the other is just One Piece logic with a bit of quantum theory. So let's start with the theory of Schrodinger's cat. This is a theory in quantum mechanics, which is a thought experiment, but some look at it as a paradox. And a paradox isn't only figuring out what your significant other would like to eat. No. A paradox is much simpler, trust me. It's a self-contradictory statement that leads to an unacceptable conclusion. Like, for instance, if a ship is repaired over time and replaced each and all of its parts, one at a time, is it then the same ship? Like, for instance, if you replaced all the parts of the Mary, one at a time, can we still call it the Mary? Anyway, to bring things back to Schrodinger's cat, it refers to the hypothetical of something being alive and dead at the same time. So if you place a cat in a box, right, and something that could kill it, you would not know if the cat is dead or alive until you open the box. So until the box is opened, in actuality, it is dead and alive, because to you it's alive until you actually know that it's dead, because something did kill it. This is a quantum superposition, and when an element can exist in multiple states. I know, it's a lot, but the entire point is to remove limits as more as possible without answers. Like Bonnie not knowing what Gear 4 or Gear 5th or Nika looks like, she has no limits. She doesn't know what it looks like, so she's just pulling from imagination. It's actually sick. But with no limiter and using quantum theory and the idea of Schrodinger's cat, Bonnie can create Luffy's attack without limits in this moment because it exists in two states: what it is and what Bonnie believes it to be. And this is due to my internet research. So the state that it exists in is the possible future that Bonnie pulled from and was able to replicate. I know, it's a bit crazy, it's a bit out there, but that's the real world logic think I could surmise. Now time for the One Piece logic, and more likely what's actually going on. Bonnie is using her powers of manipulating time because that's essentially what age is. It's a measure of chronometric time. Using this logic, Bonnie manipulates time to call upon a future in which she ate the Nika fruit and can use those powers. You may say this seems insane, but I explained the quantum element in which this possibility exists. This is real world logic. Even beyond that, or real world theory. But even beyond that, Bonnie, we know for a fact, can access other timelines. Let me show you something. Back in Egghead, we see Bonnie transform Luffy to an old man. You're like, this is just simple. She's just transforming Luffy to an old man. She's just aging him. In case you don't know, Oda does this thing where he draws a character's design in timelines. One, if everything goes right, and another if everything goes wrong. He did it for Luffy and, well, this is the result. So therefore, looking at this, the timeline Bonnie pulled old Luffy from is if everything goes wrong. Because I mean, in this timeline, everything is already going right for this bundle of luck. I mean, he escaped Katakuri, Akainu, Enel, Crocodile, Magellan. He's the MC. So this could be Oda breaking the fourth wall and using a cool way to include a random SBS question, but if you look at what's happening and to explain it, that would mean Bonnie can access or somehow cross between timelines and pull what she needs from a state of things that exists elsewhere. Now, I know people are saying Bonnie can't pull from a future where she ate the Nika or uses Luffy's attack because Luffy doesn't even have that attack yet. I don't know, that's weird to me, considering Kuma said this without knowing of Luffy's abilities. Nika existed before Luffy, guys. This future could be from various timelines. Essentially, at this point, Bonnie has a fruit that can call on possible futures and different states that exist without the limitations of knowing if they're real or not. So she's pulling from imagination. Bonnie could essentially pull from her imagination using time manipulation due to this entity existing at one point. What Bonnie is doing is already explained already in the story by the Quantum Man himself in Vegapunk. Not as a definitive idea, but rather a theory, so I guess a quantum theory. Vegapunk said devil fruits exist from desires. And he also said they could possibly represent many branches of the future of humanity. Branches of the future? That means Bonnie is just accessing a different fruit's power from the many possible branches out there. Theoretically. Vegapunk even goes on to say they exist in different dimensions dreamed up by someone before them. Are you kidding me? This is exactly what Bonnie is doing. So you're telling me space-time? Remember, space-time does not evolve. It simply exists. Albert Einstein. So anyway, using real-world logic and One Piece logic, to me, this makes complete sense. But what are the limits, though? Technically, there are none at this point, so everything you're currently thinking, yes, it should be possible. Calling on Odin-ish powers, calling on Roger-ish powers, I don't know, Gura-ish powers. There should be no limits when it comes to Bonnie's access to the various branches. Now, to me, if Bonnie can access these branches in a time that exists, in theory, could Toki travel at timelines that are not her own? Could Shinobu mature Momo to a form in a timeline that isn't ours? The time is a very interesting concept on its own, but in One Piece, it could blow us away. Fujitori's abilities could create possible space-time with the manipulation of gravity. We know that dimensions already exist in the story. Blackbeard has Black Hole, with Brûlé creating this world of mirrors. Mont Dor with his books. Bluno can travel between them with his Door fruit. I mean, these things have always been a part of the story, but now we're getting explanations for them, and it's simply because people wish them to be and use multiple different powers to do so. It's funny because even a character like Aokiji with the Chill fruit manipulates time with Time Capsule. It's a prevalent idea that Oda very cleverly touches on but never expounds upon, and now he finally is, and Bonnie's just a manifestation of those ideas, but we're seeing the process up close. More to come. I really can't wait. But as far as the most broken devil fruit, can you say any of these fruits are more broken than Bonnie's right now?